You're listening to Female Founders with Claire Bartlett, the podcast that tells you what it is really like to be a female founder in today's world. We share invaluable insights through personal journeys and real-life business experiences, highlighting the highs and the lows so you can move forward in your business with ease. I am passionate to share with you the realities of business and give you the strategies and simple steps you need to truly succeed with your business. Today's episode is brought to you by Xero Accounting Software, a champion of female entrepreneurs and a proud sponsor of the Female Founders podcast. Managing your business finances can feel overwhelming, but Xero simplifies it all and gives you the power to keep your books in order and your mind on growth. Xero have offered an amazing 50% discount on your first 3 months with them. So if you'd like to take advantage of this amazing deal, just search refer.xero.com/female founders or follow the link in the show notes. Don't forget to give this show a follow to make sure you never miss an episode and share it with any incredible female founders you know. But for now, let's jump into this week's episode. Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Female Founders podcast. Today I am joined by Elizabeth Solaru, the leader of Luxury Business Emporium, and she is on a mission to help you build a luxury brand. So Elizabeth, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Claire. I really am excited to have this chat with you.
Me too. Now, I know because I've had a look into you and your journey is amazing, what you've been achieving for yourself and now that you're helping other businesses too. So do you want to share with everyone sort of where your journey started and what's led you to where you are today?
Right. Okay. So I'll give you a potted history. I started my professional career as a microbiologist.
Oh, well.
I know, right? I started as a microbiologist. I was so excited. I remember being in the lab and left to me, the me then, I would have ended up just being a microbiology professor. But then I remember after about 13 years in the NHS, I just said to myself, oh my God, I don't want to be a lab rat all my life. And then I thought, how about I do something in business? I had no idea what. And I thought, best way to get into business is to do another degree. So I went off and did an MBA.
As you do.
As you do when you're young and, Yeah. So went off, did my MBA and quickly realized that my CV was very much scientific and lab-based, and it would take a while for anyone to put their trust in me. But by networking, and I remember I really networked so much, I managed to talk myself into this program where they train chief executives on how to write their CV. So it was a job hunting workshops for really senior leaders. So I took my way into that, learned a lot, and the guy running it a couple of years later gave me a job as a headhunter. So by the time I finished my MBA, a couple of years later, I was able to become a headhunter. So I went from not knowing a single thing about business to recruiting business leaders. And it was a learning curve. And then I realized it was all about people. It wasn't really about what they put in their CV. Yes, qualifications matter, but it was about people. The organizations that I was also recruiting for, there was something about these organizations either overrepresenting or underrepresenting themselves and the candidates doing the same thing. And then you have to look beneath all that to get to the real stuff. So I did that for a number of years. And then 2008, we know what happened then. We had a horrible recession. And then I was let go from my job. And then I thought, okay, if I don't do it now, I'll never, ever do it. So I decided to set up my own business making cakes, which was a childhood dream. But I couldn't fulfill that dream because obviously parents who wanted me to get an education and have something solid to fall back on. Mm-hmm. So I started the cake company, and then I quickly realized I needed clients. As you do.
Yeah. Kind of a vital part.
So I did two things. I didn't really have a plan, but I just thought, oh my God, I've got to eat. It was survival really and desperation. So I did two things. I remember speaking to a cab driver, a mini cab driver, and he said, "Oh, by the way, we leaflet." And I'm like, "What do you mean leaflet?" He said, "They distribute leaflets to really nice homes in the area." And I said, "Oh, if I give you some nicely made cards, would you do the same for me?" And he said, "Yes." So, and for about £10, not more than 20, I'm sure, I did leafleting every week, and that paid off. So while I was doing that, I also took the yellow pages and I started calling every number that had anything to do with events or weddings, or I just called and called and called. And of course, 99% of them, said, go away, it was a no.
Yeah.
But I did have a few yeses. So I got a few meetings, but it didn't really lead to anywhere. But one particular day, after I'd made about 120 calls, one particular afternoon on a Wednesday, I'll never forget, I called a number and a very young voice said, "Oh, do you make cupcakes?" And of course, I was like, "Of course we make cupcakes. And by the way, I'm going to be in your area in the next 3 days. Would you like me to drop some samples?" And she said, "Of course." So I dropped the samples and I remember running out of there because it was a really nice house in London. So I ran out, I got on the bus, and before I got halfway home, I got a phone call saying, "Lady Elizabeth would like to see you." And in my head, I'm like, who's Lady Elizabeth? So
Yeah.
anyway, hopped off the bus, went back, and it happened to be Lady Elizabeth Anson, first cousin of Queen Elizabeth, of the late Queen Elizabeth. So I know, thank God I didn't know. Thank God I didn't know at the
Yeah, you
time.
didn't need that pressure.
I didn't either, and also ignorance, was bliss. Yes. So I went back and she said, "Love your cakes." And then she ordered about 200 on the spot. And she
Wow.
said, "Exactly like this, blah, 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 deliver, And then she gave me a check. I remember holding that check. It was to a private bank, Hoots.
Yeah.
And of course, I did the first rookie mistake. I undercharged. I didn't even charge for delivery. I didn't, there was a lot I didn't charge for, but I was so happy to get that order.
Mhm.
If the story ended there, that would have been amazing enough. However, she then wrote me a note a couple of weeks later after the event saying, "Your cakes were the best I've ever tasted, blah, 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 blah. And you have my permission to use this testimonial and my name in your marketing material."
Wow.
And that was one of the best examples of allyship and support I've ever had in my business. So, yeah, that was how I started the cake business that then led me to the journey that I am right now.
Yeah, because I suppose that she understood the power of her name and her testimonial. So she knew the transformation that could have for your brand. And by you utilizing that, I mean, that must have opened so many doors for you.
It really did open doors, but this is the thing about those doors. I wouldn't say like 100 doors opened,
Mm.
but it attracted, because it's one thing to attract based on that name, but it's another thing to retain
Yes.
based on your work.
Yeah.
So yes, it did. But then I would also say sometimes it actually closed some doors, because some
Mm.
people remember a name like that can be viewed as elitist and
Yeah.
can be viewed as, oh my God, if she's doing cakes for them, I can't afford her. So
Yeah. That's
it
true.
will close some doors as well as, but I think the positives far away a
Mm.
lot of the whatever the negatives might have been. But absolutely, yeah, it did open the doors.
But I think that's where the ideal client avatar comes in. You need to make that decision, don't you? Whether you want to go down that elite luxury brand route or you don't. And by doing so, yes, you're closing off potentially a large amount of the market. But you have to make that decision. It's a personal decision, and luxury brand is a whole different beast to, you know, the normal business, I suppose, that services the majority. So did you, because by the sounds of it, you didn't go into your cake business originally with that intention of becoming a luxury elite brand. It just sort of, that's how you stumbled. And then once that had happened, was it quite easy for you to make that decision, or did you not even really realize that's what was happening at the time?
That's a brilliant question because it was, yes, I had no intention. I
Mm-hmm.
kind of fell in, I say in my book, I kind of fell into it. However, another thing I did do, which shows the power of mindset, was that I placed myself in the middle market for a long time because
Mm-hmm.
I kept thinking, I know my product is not, mass product, but if I can just be in the middle, I was quite comfortable there.
Yeah.
But I then realized that being in the middle wasn't serving me because the margins were, anyone who runs a cake business will tell you the margins are terrible. The labor, you never really get paid for your labor,
Mm-hmm.
etc., except if you are confident enough to push yourself into the high-end market. So that happened. It took me a while. It took me quite a few years to then say to myself, you know what, Elizabeth, this is not serving you for the amount. And obviously the people in the middle market, they were happy to pay me. And I thought winning about 90% of my pitches, I thought I was getting really amazing results and I was busy. However, it was busyness. But then I remember 2013, again, we had like a mini dip. I remember the economy was really bad. And a lot of cake makers were doing like what they call a diffusion range. So that was posh for, you know, cheaper. And I'm not going to do that. So what I did was I actually doubled and tripled my prices overnight. And I said, no, this is not serving me. So I literally doubled, tripled, and then I waited. And that was horrible. It was a tough wait, but it was as if it signaled to a number of luxury people, she truly is luxury.
Mm-hmm.
Because yes, you can't, not everything is expensive is luxury, but many things luxury tend to be expensive because for clients of that caliber, price is a signifier
Yeah.
to them. So that's what happened. So yeah, to answer your question, I didn't really set out. But on
Mm-hmm.
the other hand, and I tried not to, but once I developed that luxury mindset, I then realized actually my product, whether I like it or not, actually falls into this market.
Yeah.
It wasn't as if I intended to create, the most expensive whatever. No, it just happened that was my style. And
Mm-hmm.
people saw that my style was a luxury style.
I love that. And I absolutely love what you just said. And I resonate with this so much. So you just said I was winning about 90% of my contracts, and I thought that was an amazing thing. So I laugh at this because this is exactly where I was in the first few years of my business. I won 100% of the contracts that I went for. And I thought that was amazing. I thought that was speaking of, a testament of how good we were, our reputation. And then I remember, and I can't remember who it was, but I spoke to somebody and they said, if you're winning over probably 60%, then you're too cheap. You're not pricing yourself correctly. And I was like, and it's like literally light bulb, mind blowing moment. Like, oh my God, yes, you're right. And I did exactly the same thing. I doubled my prices, not to the existing clients. That was more gradual because mine was a monthly recurring service. So, but for new clients, I massively increased. And the fear that you feel in that moment is like, God, am I pushing it too far? Am I really worth? It really makes you question your self-worth. But if you stand your ground, I have, it didn't really impact my business at all, actually. I still got, obviously I didn't get 100% anymore. I was probably more about the 60, 70%. But what I'm getting for those 60, 70% is so much more money than I
Yeah.
was getting from the 100%. So it's still so worth doing. And I think that, the conversation about making sure you're charging your worth and understanding your worth is a never ending conversation. I think every single business owner, whether they're a luxury brand or whether they're serving the absolute masses, I think we all struggle with that area. But you're right, pricing does, what's the word I'm looking for? It sort of is a message out to the world of who your ideal client is and who you're looking for. And I often say that if that person can't afford you, then they're not your ideal client. It's not that you're too expensive. It's just that that person isn't who you're looking to work with. So I definitely think it's a mindset thing, isn't it? And like you said earlier, you didn't want to be in the masses and doing cheap cakes. That's not your style. So you backed yourself and you went for the elite, you doubled or tripled. And I think that's amazing. And I've seen your cakes and they are insane. So
Thank
100% you're in that elite market for sure.
you. I love what you said about pricing because subconsciously, because pricing is never taught in schools.
No.
It's never discussed. Even when we write our business plans, it's not really discussed. And then I realized that subconsciously, I tried the 7 different pricing models that are out there. So we always start with cost plus a little bit more. So the cost based, then we move over to the price where we look at what our competitive pricing. So what's competition charging? I will charge that.
Mm-hmm.
We move over to okay, how about I do dynamic pricing whereby I price based on whatever it is the person in front of me wants, which obviously makes you look a bit unstable because before you know it, you're giving one package to one person and it's a bit messy.
And people talk.
Exactly. And people talk on your reputation and it's like, oh my God, she only charged me X and blah, 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 blah. Then I realized that, okay, let me try another type of pricing where maybe I price high and then if people negotiate, I can drop. And I tried everything. But then I realized that the proper pricing is value-based pricing. So it based on the value, not only the value you're producing, but the value to their business or to them. Because with luxury clients, they can afford, well, some types, because there are 8 different types, but some types of luxury clients, they can afford anything. But the one thing that is common to all of them is that they want value. And if they feel that you're just another hand in a long line of people wanting to take from them, it doesn't even matter if you're giving it away for free. They won't take it.
Yeah.
Because it's about the value. Are you truly, truly, truly giving them value? These are people that can afford almost anything in the world. So if they make a choice to come to you, it's based on you being a high trustworthy individual. And we sometimes do not put a premium on the trust that we are delivering.
Yeah.
So I feel that is part of the value that we deliver when it comes to pricing.
Yeah. I think everybody wants a return on investment, don't they? It doesn't matter whether you're spending £100, £1,000, you still want to feel like you've got return on your investment. And I think that a huge amount comes down to self-worth and self-belief. I know my value that I'm offering my clients, therefore I'm comfortable with charging X. But if you are doubting yourself or the value that you're going to be bringing, then you won't have that confidence in yourself to stand by that, that higher value. And I think that's where, we all I'm a huge believer in constant education, constantly working on yourself and bettering yourself. And I think the internal work, I don't think really ever stops. I think we can always be improving on that. But talking about luxury brands and how you put yourself into that elite space, do you believe that any brand, any type of business can be a luxury brand?
Easily.
Yeah.
Easily, more than people think. And I think because when people think luxury brand, they immediately think barriers, right? So you immediately think, oh my God, and you also, when people think luxury brand, they also think luxury lifestyle. That's completely different.
Yeah.
It's people like us that deliver the luxury lifestyle to the people that can afford it. So that's completely different. And I always use the examples of the well-known brands that we know today. So if I use, for example, Gucci, the founder of Gucci, he left home, he left Italy when he was 17, came to London to work as a porter at the Savoy. And it was while he was handling luggage of posh people that he realized, hang on, I can go back to my family's leather business and design elegant, really elegant luggage and handbags and leather accessories. So he didn't come from luxury, but he spotted an opportunity. Another example, Louis Vuitton. Louis Vuitton, he was a 13-year-old in his village And he walked barefoot, some people say, from his village to Paris, 300 miles. He arrived when he was 15, got an apprenticeship with a box maker. And in those days, box makers were very important because when people traveled, they went to have a box made. And then Louis Vuitton made two observations. Number one, a lot of the trunks had rounded tops. So that meant you couldn't stack them on top of it. And he thought, that's, it's such a simple thing because we take it for granted that trunks are now rectangular. They weren't. And he said, if you can stack things, that means you're saving space. So he noticed that. He also noticed that the material that was used in making the boxes were leather, and leather, it warps, retains moisture, blah, blah, blah. And he said, how about we use canvas? And that's how he founded Louis Vuitton that we know today.
Yeah.
So for me, when I'm not looking at the brands as they are today, I'm looking at the founder history. And I'm thinking, if I can do it with 40 quid in the bank and a secondhand mixer, then anybody can do it. Yes, I know I stumbled into it, but then I sat down. I remember during the pandemic, because people ask me to talk a lot about luxury clients. Who are they? How can you find them, etc. And then during the pandemic, I literally sat down and I typed all my clients. I had about 10,000 emails over the years, and I typed the different clients and I came up with archetypes. And I did the same for luxury brand founders, and I came up with archetypes. And not just come up with archetypes, but the pros and cons. No, again, you said earlier about self-worth and self-belief, and then different archetypes have different self-esteem, different self-worth, different self-belief. So when I typed myself, for example, I came out as artisan and visionary. As an artisan, that's great. That means I pay attention to craftsmanship. I'm very passionate about what I do. As a visionary, I'm always thinking of the future, what could be, new ways of doing things, innovation, etc. They're the upsides. The downsides to being an artisan means I'm not looking at margins. I'm not looking at money. I'm not looking at charging. There's a bunch. And then the downside to being a visionary is that I need to be grounded in the present because I got to eat, I've got to feed my family. So for me, it then makes me think, oh my God, so this is why I do the things I do. And this is what I need to do. And these are the people I need around me to help me grow my business. And when it comes to luxury brands, I believe there are five key pillars. They're all different key pillars to founding a luxury business. And if you can get those in place, you will more likely succeed in your luxury business, because nobody's really sat down to kind of like look at those pillars or define what they are, because many luxury business books are written by professors of luxury or people who work with the big brands who are parachuted into those brands. But from a founder perspective, when you've literally done the sleepless nights, you can't meet payroll, you can't pay the rent, that is a different story. So that's why I truly believe that anybody, and I mean anybody, can set up a luxury business.
I love that. And I love how, you worked out your own archetype and that you've got conflicting and good and bad on either side. So, and I actually think that's really important, and that can help with understanding your self-worth and just understanding yourself. So how did you do that? Was that just something that you came up with yourself, using what you'd done with your clients? You then used that on yourself. Is that how you did that?
Yes, that was it. Because I went back to my MBA days, because I thankfully kept all my textbooks and everything. And obviously did a bit of research as well online. And through the kind of people I've met, because I work in the events industry, where a lot of people, we're all about serving our clients. And so again, with even each archetype actually has somebody I know in real life.
Really?
I didn't mention who they were. But I literally had that person in front of me. Literally had I'm like, oh my God, this is why X is like this. And that was how I came up with that. Again, I would say to people, You don't have to agree. I'm happy for you to disagree. I love debate. However, many people who've actually read the book and look at what I've done, they're like, oh my God, that is me. I'm an XYZ.
They can fit
They
themselves
can
in.
see themselves. But then again, because we're human, we are fluid in our behavior. You
Hmm.
can be one way when you're 20 and another way definitely when you're 50, because we all grow and change.
Yeah.
However, it just gives you a starting point, and it gives you a rough idea of the blind spots that you might have in your behavior or business that you're not aware of.
Mm.
Because the one thing that I realized as a headhunter was that a lot of candidates had blind spots. Until you show them a video of you interviewing them, they were not aware of the fidgeting, the rubbing of the nose, the expressions, the facial. There's a lot people are not aware of until you show them, and they're like, oh my God,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really do XYZ. So that's what I was hoping to kind of like do in kind of like, is because it starts with you, that luxury mindset. And I don't mean going out and spending oodles on a handbag or something. I mean, in your heart, knowing that I can serve this section of the population, and the
Yeah.
people doing that are not extraordinary by any way. They're not unusual. They're just normal people who just found their niche.
Yeah. And I think that's so important to get across that, you look at, because 100%, Elizabeth, people might do that with your brand. They might see it on Instagram, see the level of artistry and work that goes into your cakes and think, oh, that's, I'm nowhere near that. That's just nothing like me or whatever. And they might put you on a pedestal, thinking that you are a certain type of person. But behind every business in the beginning is just a normal person. And you say that, with Louis Vuitton and Gucci, we all start at ground zero. Everybody starts at the same place. And some people just have that belief and that drive and just push themselves further than others do. And a huge amount of it that fuels it is the self-belief and the self-worth. And I love that. So you talk about the archetypes in your book, which you've when did it come out? Was it last month or
Last month, yeah.
last month? So anyone who read the book would be able to discover their archetype and fit themselves in. And I think so often, business owners especially, we don't talk about our flaws because we see it as a failure. So we don't want to say, actually, I'm not very good at sales, or I'm not very good at the marketing, or whatever area it is. But it's actually really critical to understand your weaknesses and then address them, whether that's self development or whether it's finding somebody to bring into your team that's strong in that area. If you as a business owner aren't aware or don't want to admit to your flaws, then you are really limiting your opportunities for success, because you'll never be 100% amazing at every area of business. I think it's really impossible. That's where it's really important to understand which areas that you need support in and then bring that in as soon as you can, whether that's through staff or just future learning. But, when I went into business, marketing, I had no idea about marketing at all. I went into business because I was good at that one thing. And I say this to people all the time. You can't be expected to be great at the accounting, at the marketing, at the sales, you know, you need to have that support. And the most painful bit for me, and I'm very open about this, is the admin. I am terrible at keeping up on top of my admin. It's so overwhelming, isn't it? The email inbox is just never going down. And so one of the first hires I ever made in my business was a PA, was admin support, because
Well done.
yeah, honestly, it was like, waking up in the middle of the night, like, oh God, I've still got all those emails to answer. It was stressful for me. So I outsourced that bit as soon as I could. And I still today, it's one of the most important people in my team. Then what, and I say to people, they'll say, oh, can we have a meeting? And I'm like, I can't actually touch my own calendar because I get in a mess. So I'll give you my PA's email and she can do it, because honestly, I double book myself or I miss things. I'm just a nightmare with it. But I'm completely open and honest, and I own that about myself. I'm aware of that. My husband does most of our house admin. Like, I'm just terrible at it. I don't know why. It's my 100% my blind spot. So I think it's really important to understand these things about ourselves and just be completely honest with ourselves. Yeah, I'm not that great at that side of things. But do you think that when you're looking at, luxury clients, do you think being good at sales is even more important when you're trying to pitch to the more elite clients?
That's another brilliant question. It depends on what you mean by sales. So if you ask me, I would say to you that I've never really sold.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that sounds a bit contra, whatever. I've never really sold. So because this is how I view luxury clients. And it's the same with when I used to interview people. If you're sat in front of me, that means your CV has done the job.
Yeah.
I'm already sold. I am spending my time interviewing you because you already met some or all of the criteria, or maybe even exceeded, who knows?
Yeah.
So at that moment, what I'm looking for, so if I'm sitting in front of a luxury client, they're looking for, do we believe her? Do we trust her? Is she a high trustworthy individual? And how do we feel about what she's selling? So you're you're a cog, not in a horrible way.
Yeah.
Unless of course it's something personal. So if it's a personal service, like, I don't know, say you're doing hair and makeup, or you're a dress, you're a stylist or whatever, they trust you to they already trust you. So this is not the time for you to then say, okay, as a stylist, give them 1,000 different options. No, this is where curation, if you're a
Yeah.
good salesperson, you curate. So and remember that not all high net worth clients will have the time to sit down in front of you for a chat.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them will go through their gatekeepers. So even the gatekeepers, there are a couple of things you need to do. You need to manage the gatekeepers, and you need to also curate on top of everything. So you
Mm-hmm.
need to come with, this is what I recommend, because you're the expert, by the way. This is what I recommend based on XYZ. This is what I suggest. If the gatekeeper's like, not sure, not happy, we're like, okay, forget that. These are other options.
Yeah.
But do not be, because people think that the more options you give them, the better. No, you
Yeah.
need to curate, and you need to defend why, like, this is why I brought you XYZ. But if you want bigger and better, certainly we can do that. But let's start with XYZ and let's build. That is a different conversation to the salesy, you've got to overcome objections. Are you kidding me? You do not do a battle of wheels with
Mm-hmm.
a high net worth individual. It's not a matter of, yeah, you said yes and I will counter, and no, 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 no. It's completely different. If they have objections, they've got objections for a reason. So sometimes it could be, what is it about that thing that you hate? And you need to be, and this is why, again, what you mentioned earlier, the self-belief, the mindset, etc., comes in, because if they say, we hate that, it's nothing personal.
Yeah.
It's not you, isn't, okay, we hate that, no problem. Let's now look at what you do like. So and you also need to show that confidence that you can take it if somebody doesn't like what you're selling. It's not for you, not the end of the world. There are other brands out there, and there
Yeah.
are clients who come to me and say, oh, I want XYZ. And I'm like, actually, it's not my style of cake. But I can recommend someone.
Yeah.
It actually makes them stay with me a lot more, because they're like, oh, you were honest. I'm like, no, I do not do cars or, random things or whatever. But I know a cake maker who that's all they specialize in, and they're amazing. So you need to be that confident to say, and you even need to be confident to say, you're not the right client for me. Because there
Yeah.
are some clients that'll drive you around the bend. Because when I looked at the different client archetypes, I understood why I get on with a certain archetype more than others. So I always use the example of King Charles and Ozzy Osbourne. And I don't know if people, as marketers, use that meme a lot. So King Charles and Ozzy Osbourne, if you to look at them, they're both white male, same age, been married and divorced twice, and they both live in castles. So according to demographics, you should sell to them the same. But according to psychographics and my archetypes, they're completely different.
Yeah.
One of them is what I call security conscious, comfort first, and the other is an innovator trendsetter.
Yeah.
So they're completely different, and how they think is different, and what they look for is completely different. The innovator's trendsetter will drive you around the bend because they always look for new things. They're not loyal, but they will tell everyone, I got this from XYZ. Aren't they amazing? So
Yeah.
that's the innovator trendsetter. the what I call the comfort first or the security conscious, they're going to be loyal to you for generations because once they trust you and you're in that circle, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unless you do something and then you're out. They won't even tell you what you've done. You just find yourself iced and you're out.
And you're never
Because
making it back in.
exactly. And you never make your way back in. Confidentiality, trustworthiness is
Yeah.
so important to them, even more than the product. So your
Yeah.
product doesn't even have to be that amazing. As long as they trust you, like it, believe you, that's it.
Mm.
So again, this, I tell the differences between all 8 archetypes, where you can find them, how you don't even have to go to, if you're not a networking type person in person, you can actually find them online.
Yeah.
I can tell you how I found some people online, because in my industry, a lot of people rely on wedding planners or event planners, but
Mm-hmm.
event planners can't give 1,000 people jobs because they're looking for jobs themselves. So I then thought, okay, when I was networking in my day, what did I do? And I thought, okay, you can actually, even using Google to find people, I use Google differently. So there are loads of things you can do, but selling to the um, ultra high net worth or royalty or whatever is a different ball game.
Yeah.
Yes, you've got to be good at selling, but you mustn't be salesy, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think it's so true what you said about in when we feel pressure, if we're going for a really like, oh my God, this would be dream client, we often then try and over deliver instead of doing that creation because we are panicking. I think people panic and they're like, well, I need to give them as much and show them as much as I possibly can about what I can offer. But actually what they want, their time is so limited. What they want is you to come with like you said, X, Y, Z. These are the 3 options I think suit you the absolute best. Um, let's start off here. What do you think about them? And then we can move, away from them. But I think going with like 30, it's overwhelming for people, and people then just back away and say, "Oh yeah, no, she doesn't know her own mind. She doesn't know what I'm looking for. So let's just leave." So I think that's an absolutely amazing point. And I think there's always in any business and any client relationship, there needs to be trust is hugely important. But I do agree that I think with the elite level, that trust is probably even more crucial than the product itself. It's building those relationships, isn't it? Whether that's with them or their gatekeepers, like you say. So yeah, I think those are really important points. But for me, from what I'm getting out of this talk with you today, is just the self-worth and having the confidence to say to yourself that I am a luxury brand, I can be a luxury brand. And then backing yourself into that space, I think is the sort of the groundwork of it all. And I love I can't wait to read your book. I haven't read it yet, but it's on my read list. So if people want to go and grab a copy, where would they find that?
Amazon.
Okay. And it's
I'm
called Luxpreneur.
over Amazon. So amazon.co.uk.com. It's there. It's called the Luxpreneur.
Yeah.
How to start and build a successful luxury brand. And I think even if you never intend to sell to the high end, there
Mhm.
is something about the book that just, and I think for me, I hate when things are shrouded in secrecy and mystery. And I just love the fact that, you know, I've, again, no gatekeeping, I've shared the knowledge.
Mhm.
And also, as a woman in business, I love reading books by other women in business because a lot of our business views are shaped by men who write about 80% of all the business books out there.
Yeah.
So that means that, but in reality, about, well, over 50% of businesses, I believe in the UK, are run by women, and women is the largest demographic when it comes to starting businesses.
Yeah.
So where's our voice in all this, and and also this self-worth and self-esteem situation? It seems to affect us more because of
It does. Yeah.
programming or something. I don't know. There's no woman, no matter where in the world, we all have that in common.
Yeah.
That this self-esteem issue, we're told, don't be too this and don't be too that. So for me, being able to just get my thoughts and what I feel on paper to say, this is how I've navigated, this is how I've done it.
Mhm.
And I don't, again, I'm not one for hiding behind, oh my God, I just got the, no, it was hard.
Yeah.
It wasn't glamorous at all, but it's doable. I think my core message is it's doable.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what business you're running, having that self-belief and self-worth and having a roadmap to know this is doable. This can be done. And I love what you said about, anyone who truly can be a luxury brand, that self-belief, that self-worth. But there's also an element of how do you present yourself
Mm-hmm.
so that the client, because these are people who are very savvy, they know where to poke. Some of them have set up really successful businesses. Some were self-made, some inherited. So they know people, right? There's, a lot of them when it comes to psychology, and they know where to poke and where to prod. So, where you from and how did you land in front of me? They want to know who you are.
Yeah.
And you should be confident and not ashamed to say, yeah, I'm a povo, but guess what? I'm here,
Yeah.
I'm not from your world, but, I know what makes you tick. And here it is.
Yeah.
There's something about that because some people will dig into you. They want to know who you are and they will dig.
Mm-hmm.
So you just own who you are, be confident with what you do. And yeah.
I love that. And I think actually, just as we've been talking, I'm thinking there's so much to learn from your book. Even if you don't have any intention to go into, to build your brand to a luxury brand, I just think there's so many important messages like, building that trust with your clients and how you represent yourself as a brand. I think all of these things, any business can take on board. So I will put the link to your book on Amazon in the show notes for everyone as well. But yeah, I could talk to you honestly all day, but the listeners, I'm sure, have got things to do. So I'll have to say, just thank you so much for joining us, Elizabeth. I'll put all of your social links in the show notes. I think it's amazing. Like I said, your cakes are dreams. And just the fact, like you say, you've got your book out there, you're sharing your message and your journey with the world. And I think it's amazing. So thank you so much for spending the time with me today and sharing your story.
Thank you so much for having me, Claire. And thank you for what you're doing for women in business. And I admire what you're doing. I love seeing what you do. And I know sometimes, it might feel like a thankless task or whatever, but trust me, there are women out there thanking God for you because every day without fail in the group, you're sharing so thank you so much. I truly, truly appreciate it because if you're a solopreneur, it provides a comfort, let's put it that way. And it's so real. So thank you for that.
Oh, bless you. No, that's so amazing of you to say. It's really kind. And that's what it's all about. So if you, as a listener, have not joined Female Founders on Facebook yet, it's our community, our group where we just come together. And like Elizabeth says, it can be a lonely journey being in business, even when you have a team around you. But being able to open up in a space where you're with other business owners who really understand the pain points, that's what it's all about. So thank you so much, all of you, for joining us. Thank you again to Elizabeth for being our guest this week. And I will speak to you all next week. Thank you. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode, which was brought to you by Xero Accounting Software, a champion of female entrepreneurs and a proud sponsor of the Female Founders podcast. If you're running a small business and you're dreaming big, then Xero is here to help make those dreams a reality. Xero is all about supporting women like you, who are not just running businesses, but are also changing the game. So whether you're just starting out or you're scaling up, join a global community of female founders who trust Xero to manage their finances efficiently. Just visit refer.xero.com/female founders to learn more. But for now, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and share this episode with all the incredible female founders you know. And together, let's change what it means to be a female founder in today's world.